You gonna sit in my lap? Oh, your face is a mess. Can I wipe your face? We had prunes this morning, and his face is still a mess. Got a prune goatee. How's that? Are you presentable now? Pretty much. Hey guys, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're talking my January wrap-up. So in the month of January, I read 11 books and 3,021 pages, which is actually more than I was really planning on, but that is a good thing. I have been trying to keep my expectations low this year so that I can impress myself with how much I actually read. We're gonna go through a little bit of stats first, and then we will jump into the actual books and reviews. So for the format of the 11 books that I read 1 ebook, 2 ARCs, 2 audiobooks, and 6 physical books. For age group, I had 1 middle grade, 4 young adult, and 6 adult titles. And then for the star rating, I had 1 2-star, 2 3-stars, 2 4-stars, 2 4.5 stars, and 4 5-star titles. So overall, obviously, this was a pretty good reading month. Now, for getting into the reviews, I usually review in chronological order, from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. But I think for this month, I'm going to try it in rating order, going from my least favorite book to my most favorite book. Let me know if that's something that you do enjoy down in the comments, or if you want me to go back to the way it was, but we're gonna try it out for this month. So the one book that was a 2-star read is City of Villains by Estelle Lohr. This was an e-arc that I read, and the book actually came out January 26th. And it was supposed to be a, like, Disney villains meets Gotham City sort of vibe, and I just really did not enjoy this book. The writing style was very telling and not showing, which some authors can do that really well, but for this one here, I didn't feel any connection to any characters. We also were dropped into the story in what felt like almost the middle. All of the relationships that our main character Mary bless you, that our main character Mary Elizabeth had were already established. She already had a boyfriend of a couple years, she already had best friends, and I didn't see any proof of those relationships. We were just told that they were there. So I did not feel any sort of reality in this story. There were parts that were sort of dark because it is supposed to be like meeting Gotham City sort of vibes, but again, I didn't feel anything for it. Now, this is also supposed to be Disney villain related, and I was very confused as to how they were doing that, only insofar as the fact that half of our characters have actual Disney names and the other ones don't. And there is a group of characters here that like are not based on Disney characters. They don't have magic. Well, nobody in this town has magic. Magic has left, but they aren't descended from characters who had magic. So we do have some people that, you know, don't have that. But even in the characters that are supposed to be descended from Disney characters, they don't have the right names. And so like we did have characters like Ursula and Flora and Fauna and Merryweather who had their names and you know exactly who they are. But then we had characters like Mary Elizabeth, who is our main character. I believe she's supposed to be the Queen of Hearts character. And then we also had Dally, who owns the Wonderland like club that the teens go to. I think he's the White Rabbit character. And then there was other ones mentioned that again, I don't know who they are because we didn't get enough of the characters. Then we also had Mally, who is supposed to be Maleficent, and there was a very cheesy sort of like, this is why she's Maleficent near the end of the book, and I just really did not like this book. It didn't fit together the way I really wanted it to. Moving into the 3-star ratings, like I said, I had 2 of these. The first one is Hazel and Gray by Nick Stone. This is part of the Far Away collection from Amazon Original Stories, so I want to say this book was probably like 20 or 30 pages, and I did read this as an audiobook in the car on the way to and from errands, and this was okay. These are supposed to be based on fairy tales or have some sort of fairy tale-like quality to it, and obviously this one is a take on Hansel and Gretel. We have our two main characters, Hazel and Gray, who end up lost in the woods, and they go to this house that has a party going on. This story does have trigger warnings for pedophilia and sex trafficking, so keep that in mind. And I gave it a 3 stars. I think it was because of how short the story was. I didn't really feel too connected to the characters. The ending was actually very predictable for me, even though I had seen some reviews, people saying that there was like a twist at the end. I got that. But also, by the time we got to the whole sex trafficking portion, we got some information on other characters in this house that they were in, and that was it. We just got like this person, this person, this person, this person, and I was really wanting more. I do think this book would be a great book if it was expanded into an actual, maybe like 300-ish page contemporary sort of story. It just didn't quite feel complete to me, I think is what it is. Then I also read Persephone Station by Stina Light. This is one that I also had an e-arc for. It came out on January 5th, and this book took me forever to read, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I did still give it 3 stars, and near the beginning of the book, I was really hoping to give it 4 stars, but it was a lot of trying to be like super scientific in a way, and so I just felt very like I had to be in a certain headspace to read this book. And this follows our main character of Angel de la Reza, who is part of like a band of mercenaries almost, and she is being tasked with protecting a group of aliens on a planet. I can't really get into too much about it. This world does have normalized queerness, which is something that I really, really love in stories, especially sci-fi stories, where people can be gay or lesbian or bi or trans or non-binary, and there's no stigma against it. It is just something that is part of the world. And so I did feel like partially that was done well. There is one character who we do get some points of view from them, who is named Rosie, who is a non-binary character, and I really, really did enjoy them so much. However, they are the only non-binary character who is given any sort of agency in this story. And I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing to only have one main non-binary character. However, this is supposed to be like a feminist sci-fi story, and apparently in this author's point of view, or in this book at least, a feminist sci-fi story means 99% of the characters, side characters, main characters, any characters, are female. So we didn't really have any male characters whatsoever besides maybe 1 or 2 lines here or there, and then we only had one non-binary character who seemed to have any agency, and they were one of my favorite characters, so it was a little bit disappointing. Also though, there was a quote in this book that I did not enjoy. Let me pull it up really quick. So basically, our main character, like I said, of Angel, is going to protect this colony of aliens, although they're on their planet, so I guess Angel's more of an alien than they are. And she says 4 women, 1 man, and 2 non-binary individuals approached. All were dressed in well-worn spacer suits. And this might not seem like a big deal, but you can't tell what gender somebody is just from them approaching you and like you looking at them, especially when they're all wearing the same fucking outfit. So while I do believe this author was trying to add in non-binary as a very common, I guess, gender in this world, I don't think it was done well, besides Rosie, who I did really enjoy. Because literally you're just saying, oh, I see there's a woman and a man and a non-binary. Like, it just does not sit well with me, especially in the way that it was done here. If you would have said, oh, we had 7 individuals come up, and you just don't assume their gender right away until they tell you what their pronouns are or something, that would be better. But then, of course, we never talked to any of these characters. Thank you, baby. This is a box for an unboxing eventually, so not today. And then, of course, we only talk to the female characters in this story. But again, I probably would have given it maybe like 4 or 3.5 stars at that point. But also, I felt the ending was very, very abrupt. We were given so much information. We have aliens and humans and AI, and all these things seem to have been separate entities, and nobody really knows about each other. Like the AI, nobody ever really like finds out exactly what their purpose is. We do, but nobody else does. And so nothing seemed to come together. And then we get to a point at the end of the book where literally it is just stopped. The climax happens, we have a reveal, and then it ends, and there's an epilogue of like who knows how long later. And so the ending was very, very unsatisfactory for me. This one does have some trigger warnings for genocide and medical stuff. Like we have a place in a hospital setting as well. And so that could very much be triggering to some people. Moving up to 4 stars, we have The Cleaners by Ken Liu. This is another short story from the Faraway collection, which is the Amazon original story stuff. And this one I did like a little bit more than Hazel and Gray. This is something that I feel is a little bit more individual. I had never really heard of a book like this before, but basically we have 3 different characters who live in this world where memories and emotions can attach itself to objects. And so every so often you might want to get those objects cleaned to remove the memories or potential bad feelings, that kind of thing. And we basically follow just 3 main characters. One is Guy, who is a cleaner, and he has no sensitivity to these emotions or memories whatsoever. So he is basically a normal human, but in the society he is an aberration. Thank you. Then we also have, sorry, he wants to play a game. We also have Clara, who is sort of normal in their society. She can feel her emotions and memories, and people that are also very, very close to her, she can feel some of those as well. And then we have her sister Beatrice, who is like on the high end of this emotional stuff. She can feel basically everything from anybody whatsoever. And I'm not giving away any like spoilers really, because the whole book was basically their experiences in this world. And I don't know, it was just something that was so unique. It was, again, very, very short, only like maybe 20 something, 30 pages. And I would love to know more in this world, but I really just enjoyed the time that we had with it. Then our other 4-star is going to be Legacy. No, Mama's using that, baby. Here, you play the game. Then the other 4-star that we have is Legacy by Michael Jan Friedman. This is a book in the Star Trek, the original series universe. I do believe a lot of these books are non-canonical. So, yes, take that as you will. But I gave this 4 stars. I haven't read a Star Trek book in a few years now. I think it's been at least 2 or 3 years. And I have a whole collection of these. I love the original series, and this was my TBR bucket pick for January, and it's a really good one to start off reading more Star Trek with, because I really did enjoy this one. I loved the characterizations that we had. We are following Kirk, who is sort of trapped on a planet, Spock, who gets poisoned by some alien on that planet, gets beamed up to the ship, and he then has to confront Dreen, who is like our antagonist here, who is somebody from his past when he was serving on the Enterprise with Christopher Pike. And we do get a little bit of Pike as well. I didn't think that was necessarily necessary, except for the fact that it was good to see him again. And then we also get some memories and stuff of other missions that they went on, both Kirk and Spock and Spock and Pike. So again, this was really, really good. I loved the characterization. The plot of this book definitely felt like it could have been a TV show or movie potentially, and so I was very into it. The only real thing is we did have Kirk stranded with a landing party, and there was one female character in the landing party, and of course, anytime he talks about her, he potentially has to flirt with her, and he has to be interested in her, and I know it's part of his character, but it's not a part that I actually enjoy that much. So yeah, also there were little bits and pieces that the characters did feel a little bit out of character at certain parts, or it felt a little bit long, or we didn't necessarily need little bits and pieces here. Like, it could have been a little bit shorter, but overall, a good solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. Moving into our 4.5 stars, one of them is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Sean McGuire. This is the second book in the Wayward Children series, and this I did actually read as an ebook because I owned an ebook copy as well as a hardcover copy, and I have been trying to, in January especially, read a physical book and an ebook at the same time. That's my journal. You can't have that. Mostly because Presley still wakes up from his nap a little bit early and then falls asleep on me again. So it's really hard to have a sleeping baby on you and read a physical book. So when that happens, I try to have an ebook open as well. And this was one of the ebooks that I read this month. And I really did enjoy this one. I gave the first book in this series, Every Heart a Doorway, 5 stars. This one is a 4.5. Only because I did feel like it took a little while to get to the point. This follows Jack and Jill from like their birth through when they go through the portal and then come back out. And I did like the aspects, thank you, put the package down. I did like the aspects of them in their home life at the beginning because their parents are not good parents. There's a lot of things that are like basically emotional abuse, so keep that in mind. And then I liked when they were in the portal. However, there was still a little bit too much in between, almost. The transition from their parents' thoughts and like how they were parenting to the actual time when they were in their portal. So this is technically a prequel to the first book. Still really, really good. It just didn't give me that feeling that I had with the first book, so it is a 4.5. Okay, and then it is actually a couple hours later. We had to wait until Presley went down for his nap to continue this because he just got a little bit too antsy. So if the lighting is off, that's why. But my next 4.5 is Qualityland by Marc-Uwe Kling. This was a buddy read that I did with one of my best friends. He doesn't have a booktube channel or anything like that, but we decided to try to buddy read in January because he actually moved across the country basically over a year and a half ago, and we just haven't been able to connect as much, and so this was a really, really fun thing for us to do. We actually did do the buddy read a little bit differently because the ones that I've done before, we had like a set amount of pages to like read a day or chapters to read a day and then talked about it after we finished reading. With this one, I have the English version and he was reading the original German version, and so we ended up actually reading simultaneously and answering questions for each other as we went and just sort of talking about the different things, and it was so much fun to do. Super interesting as well because the German version actually has 2 versions, a light version and a dark version, and the different like advertisements and things like that that you get in those versions are different. And one thing we did notice is that the English version has a little bit of a mix between the light and dark versions, and oh, it was so much fun. This is a like dark, funny satire type of story about like if Amazon took over Germany and then the world, and it definitely had a lot of social commentary about that kind of thing and about politics and classism and all this kind of stuff, and I really did enjoy this one. Some of it is very, very dark. A lot of it is humorous, and the reason it is a 4.5 and not a full 5 stars is that we did have some parts that were not as humorous as I was hoping based on the rest of the book. Like, it starts off very, very funny, but then we have some chapters that are just bleak. So some of it has to do with the politics. We do have a character in here that is very Donald Trump-ish, so you definitely just sort of feel that, and when it's not as funny, it's very dark, and it's very, very like heavy on my emotions. But overall, I did really enjoy this. This does have some trigger warnings, especially for a mention of abortion, but also it is just very, very dark, like I said, in like the classism tones, the politic tones, that kind of thing. But when it's billed as 1984 meets Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it really delivers. Now we're moving into the 5 stars, and I did have 4 of those. So the first one I have here is Something is Killing the Children, Volume 2 by James Tynion IV. This is obviously the continuation of the Something is Killing the Children comics, and this is the bind-up of it. I really, really enjoy this series. It is very dark, very bloody and gory, and while the first one ended on a cliffhanger, This one somehow ended on a bigger cliffhanger. We're getting more into the action. We got a little bit more backstory about Erica Slaughter, who is like our main monster killer in this. And oh, I'm so curious about the next volume because I need to know where this is gonna go. It is, like I said, very dark. The art style, if you guys can see here, is a little bit sketchy, which I feel like fits perfectly for this type of story. And yeah, very dark, very bloody. The trigger warnings with this would probably be child death because, again, the monsters very much focus on killing children. We do have some younger children as well as some teenagers, and yeah, I don't know where this is exactly going next, but I definitely need the next one. Then we have Nevermoor by Jessica Townsend. This was my only middle grade for the month, but it was such a good middle grade to do. This is for the Nevermoor along? Is that what it's? Wonder along? I don't remember. I am so sorry. But I only own the first one, so I don't know if I'll actually be continuing in the readathon, read-along thing that is going on for this. The second book is supposed to be read in February, and the third book is in March. The third book's also only in hardcover, and I have paperback, so yeah, probably not gonna happen, but I really enjoyed this one. So this follows our main character of Morrigan Crow, who is a cursed child. And basically what that means is in this world, they have like an age, let's call it that, where it goes through like the seasons. And once it hits the nighttime, the dark time, I don't know all the terminology and I'm so sorry, I didn't write this down. But when it hits like the end of it and is about to refresh, all the cursed children die. And she ends up getting swept away by Jupiter North into another world. And this world has magic and there's a competition for her to sort of get into his group of people. I loved this so much. I loved her as a character. I loved the competition aspects. I just really loved this world. There's not like a ton to it, but it hooked me. Like I think it took me like 2 days to read this, and this is quite a long book. It is almost 500 pages long, and it was just so much fun. It is a perfect middle grade story. It had the magic, it had the characters, it had like the sort of found family vibes. I loved it, and I need the next one, which shouldn't be based on competitions anymore because that was basically this whole one, so I'm very curious about the next one and what that will all entail. Then another 5-star is actually the very first thing that I read in January, and that is going to be Slay by Brittany Morris. This one, I don't want to say it's been getting too much hype because I really don't think it has been. This is sort of underrated. However, a lot of my friends that have read this one loved this one, and I'm so happy that I loved it as well. This was so good. Now this follows our main character of Kiara, who is in high school, but she also has programmed the game Slay, which is like an RPG battle-ish type of game that is in a virtual reality world, and it is really only for Black people. I really did love the whole commentary with this. It definitely delves into racism, and there's a lot of Black culture in here, a lot of stuff I had heard before, and other stuff I hadn't. It talks about AAVE. It has so much, like I think I learned quite a bit from this story. And one criticism, I should say, I have heard before, this is not something for me really, but I had heard that people didn't think the video game programmer aspect was realistic. From my understanding, Brittany Morris does have a background in this, so I mean, let her do what she wants to do. The most unrealistic part for me was the virtual reality part. I have never realized that that was such a big thing. Maybe it is not a huge thing, but they did it more just for this story. That was my only thing. Like, it's a whole virtual reality world, and I don't know. For something that's supposed to be set sort of in modern day, I thought that was a little bit weird, but I didn't think it was necessarily out of place. I didn't think that it was unrealistic. I really did love the characters in here. We definitely have some characters that I don't like, and the ending was actually a little bit surprising to me, but like when you look back on it, there were definite hints. Like, I feel like this was such a well-crafted story. I love the video game aspect in here because I personally love video games, and yeah, perfect book to start off 2021. I am enamored with this. And then my last book, and technically my favorite book of January, Slay is really, really high up there. Like, it was so hard to pick, but I am going with Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. This is the Owl Crate edition. Super, super pretty, that we got last year, and I don't know why it took me so long to read it. Not super long. What, like 6 months or something? I think we got this like in June or July. I don't know. But I absolutely love this book. This book is supposed to be a take on Phantom of the Opera and Moulin Rouge with a magician magical competition, and it is definitely not hitting you over the head too much with Phantom of the Opera and Moulin Rouge, but I can definitely see those elements of this story. I loved our characters. Like, the characters were just so good for me. They were so visceral, like so real. So we have Kalia, or Kalia, I actually don't know how to pronounce her name, but she's our main character. And then we also had some points of view of Darren, who is a judge in the magical competition. We had some points of view of Jack, who is like the master of the house that she came from. And then we also have Eros. We don't have any points of view from him, but I did love him as a character who ends up being like her assistant. We had some circus girls. I loved the characters. I do wish there was a little bit more world building in here, and the thing is, I do feel like there is world building, or the potential for world building, but I don't think we necessarily got to know all of it, because there is a mysterious aspect in here that did not get answered. And so we do have a sequel coming out this year. It's actually the finale as well, because it is a duology, so I'm really hoping we get those things answered in that book, because I need to know. But this is still a 5-star read, because I literally, every single time I sat down to read this and opened it up, I just got this like anticipation feeling. It almost felt like a nervous energy. I don't know how to describe it. Hopefully some people can sympathize with me and know what I'm talking about, but like every single time I opened it up, I had this like itching anticipation to keep flipping pages and reading more. And because of that feeling, it has edged out Slay for my favorite book of the month, because I did not want to put it down. I loved this so much. I loved the whole process of reading it. I loved the competition aspects. I do want some more world building in the next book, but this was so good. I also need Owl Crate to do a copy that matches, because it's only a duology and I need them to match, because this is so pretty without a dust jacket. And then those were everything that I read in January. Again, let me know down below if you like the order that I did them in this time, or if you would prefer for me to go back to my like chronological reading order type of thing. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye!